Today I'm going to be talking about what I feed Squishy, my adult axolotl. She is right here. Can you say hi? She thinks she's going to be fed. In fact, if you stick around to the end of this video, you'll get to watch me feed her. Squishy's main diet consists of night crawlers or earthworms. I'm not sure if there's a difference between the two types of worms, but I buy just live bait, and I was buying it from Walmart. I do not recommend buying your earthworms or night crawlers from Walmart. The worms would not live much longer than like 2 weeks, and it comes in a big container with a lot of worms. And I feed Squishy twice a week, so she gets one worm twice a week. I typically feed her like Mondays and Fridays. So I would literally use like 4 worms out of the container, and then they would all die. And there was holes punched in the top, and if the soil would get kind of dry, I would add some water to it. So I'm not sure what was causing them to die. I think it was literally just the quality. And I'd asked someone else over on Instagram, like, why are my worms dying? And they had mentioned maybe it was just the quality. And I'm like, well, that's believable considering I'm buying them from Walmart. So I went to Albertsons here locally, and they have local bait. And so it's sourced from a person here locally. And so far, I'm having much better success with these worms. So if you have like a live bait shop anywhere near you that sources their worms locally, I would recommend them. The worms just seem like fresher and healthier. They move around a lot more in the container. And like that just wasn't my experience with Walmart worms. You know, if you can keep worms alive for a long time in your fridge from Walmart, that's great. I am not able to, and I think it was just the quality. I think that was it. She doesn't only eat night crawlers though. Like occasionally, you know, if I haven't taken the time to go buy the worms or something, I will feed her bloodworms. I do have those on hand for my other fish. So I will just put 1 cube in there for her. And it's frozen, right? I don't thaw it first because if she can eat the whole cube, then it's going to cause a lot less of a mess. However, the whole cube that's completely frozen, that's like a lot to fit in her mouth. And I don't know if they really get brain freezes or not, but I was just kind of worried about that. So I just put it in the top of the tank. And Squishy is not, what would be the word for it? She's not a very good hunter. We'll leave it at that. So it takes her a while to like find the cube of bloodworms and then eat it. And by that time, some of the worms have fallen to the sand. The cube is a lot more thawed, but still kind of intact. And she will just gulp it down whole. And then she goes down to the sand and picks off the worms that are in the sand. And I have also fed her brine shrimp that way. Not baby brine shrimp. I feel like that'd be way too messy. But actual brine shrimp, she likes that as well. Something I have not tried is pellets specifically for axolotls. I feel like whenever you can stick to a live or frozen food such as earthworms or bloodworms, that is always your best option. The least amount of processed foods for your axolotl is great. I've never tried them. I don't know like if she would like them, if she would even eat them. I've heard axolotls can be picky eaters. I've not had that issue with Squishy, but I do feed her live and frozen foods. Another thing that you can feed your axolotl, which I have tried it and was not successful, but you can feed them other fish. So what I had done, I had like a lot of guppy fry, and I just scooped some out and put them in her tank. I had seen others keep guppies in their axolotl tank, and the axolotls would just hunt them down and eat them. So I was like, oh, that would be like a cheap source of live food. So I put some in her tank, and she did not eat them, and the water was too cold for the guppies, so they would just kind of sit at the surface and like not swim very much because they were too cold, and I felt bad for them. And even though they weren't like swimming around a lot, she still wasn't eating them, which maybe it was because they weren't moving as much. I'm not sure. So I don't recommend doing guppies because the water is just really cold for them, and if she doesn't end up eating them, if your axolotl does not end up eating the guppies, then they're just like cold and miserable in the tank, and it's not ideal. So I took them out, and You could keep minnows in there. Minnows do much better in colder water. However, one person that's kept axolotls much longer than me had said that the minnows could like eat at the axolotl's gills and like strip all the little, I'm not sure what they're called. They have like little tiny fringes on their gills, right? And the minnows could like eat those off or like peck at them. Now, I would think the axolotl would just turn its head and eat the minnow if it was doing that, but maybe not. So, for that reason, I have not added minnows to the tank. I know that they would swim around more and be more active, and maybe that would encourage Squishy to become a better hunter. But I don't want to take the chances of her gills getting destroyed and then I'd have to remove the fish and where am I going to put them? So I'd have to bring them back to the fish store. But if you do want to try feeding your adult axolotl minnows, you can do that. You can find them at most bait shops, I think, and they're also very cheap at just any fish store. They're typically like under $1 a fish. So that is an option. It's something I've not done a whole lot. It's pretty easy to just feed her earthworms and bloodworms. But all that being said, let's go get Squishy a worm. She has just been watching me make this video, patiently waiting for me to feed her. For any of you who live here locally, these are the worms that I am feeding her. They're packaged here in Nampa. Well, I feel like it says that somewhere on the container, right? Oh, yeah, right there. They're packaged here in Nampa. And let's take the lid off. They're just much healthier. They're very large. And as you can see, there's only 12 of them. So it still takes me several weeks to go through a container. But when you buy a container with less worms, then the worms are just going to stay fresher. And you definitely want to rinse the worm off before feeding it to your axolotl. Don't mind my messy sink. You want to make sure you get all the soil off so that it does not go into your axolotl tank. I'm guessing the soil is not organic and you wouldn't want those toxins in your fish tank. All right, look what I have, Squishy. She's so excited. You gonna eat the worm? Oh, there we go. She's getting a lot better at handling the worms. Granted, she has gotten larger, but you gonna finish it? Mm-hmm. Oh, there we go. And then her face just looks so chubby until she swallows it, and then her stomach looks so chubby after that. Now that she's finished eating her worm, I'll give you guys a look at her tank. She's in a 29-gallon tank, and while it is large enough to accommodate her, I really wish I would have gone for like a 40-gallon because she is very active. I was told that axolotls are not very active, and that is not true of Squishy. She just like zooms back and forth, and I feel like if the tank was longer, she would be happier because she could swim. She would have more length to swim, right? However, that being said, I do love this aquarium. I think it is a great tank setup for her. Something to keep in mind for your axolotls, you do not want any rocks in the aquarium that are not bigger than the axolotl's head so that she cannot eat them. And she has a cave in here so that she can get out of the light. Axolotls can be kind of sensitive to the light in their eyes because they don't have eyelids. They can't just block the light out of their eyes. So she has this cave if the light is bothering her. She loves this jungle val. She just sits on it. She also loves this Anubias. She can kind of sit on that too. I tried to pick plants that were hardy that weren't going to be squished by her sitting on them because I was told that they can squish their plants. And so far it seems to be working out well. I do have some stem plants mixed in here, but they're doing great. She has not dug them up or anything, so that's not an issue. Overall, I think she likes her planted aquarium, and she does very well in it. I've heard a lot of people say, oh, I don't keep plants in my aquarium because I've heard that axolotls don't do well with plants, and that just has not been the case for me. Maybe some axolotls are different, I don't know, but my axolotl Squishy, since I've bought her, she's had plants in her aquarium. And I only added a few to begin with just to see how she did with them. And then I set up this more permanent aquarium for her. But she did great with them, and she continues to do great with them. So far, that's really not an issue. Now, something you do have to keep in mind, don't let floating plants cover the whole surface of the water because the aquarium will have a harder time staying cool. The water's not going to evaporate out as quickly. So you want to keep that in mind. Some floating plants are okay, but this duckweed has to be scooped out on a routine basis just because it will get to be too much and her aquarium will start getting like 4 to 5 degrees warmer than it's supposed to be just because of the floating plants. Now there is a bit of a disclaimer. This video is made for what to feed an adult axolotl and how often to feed an adult axolotl. An adult axolotl should be fed 2 to 3 times a week. But a baby axolotl needs fed daily, if not multiple times a day, and they need to be fed like little bloodworms, like a few at a time. You can't be feeding them night crawlers. So just a little disclaimer there. I've never raised a baby axolotl. I got Squishy when she was probably around 8 months old, I think, and she was big enough to be eating night crawlers. I did feed her bloodworms for a while just to make sure I didn't feed her night crawlers right off the bat. But just something to keep in mind. And thank you so much for watching this video clear to the end. I hope it was helpful to you. And I apologize in advance if the audio is different or kind of like annoying to listen to. I'm trying out a mic. I've not used a mic before. I just speak into my phone. But the audio, like my phone would pick up other noises from around, or if I was further away from my phone, it would get quieter. So I decided to use a microphone. I'm not sure what the audio, how great the audio is going to be. So if you could let me know down in the comments if you liked this audio better, or if you're like, it's not the greatest, maybe I need to invest in a more expensive microphone or just stop using one. I feel like the audio, yeah, it's not the best quality, but it's not horrible. Like, you guys can hear me plenty fine. So let me know what you think about the audio down in the comments. And once again, thank you guys for watching.